Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, the ranking member, for hosting this hearing. I have a question for I'll start with this bank, and maybe Mr. Arnold can add in to it. This bank, you run your own business, and something I heard from my electrical contractors. I had a meeting with them yesterday, and they talked about a lot of the women and minority women owned businesses, and they said that right now, under the SBA, the federal government, under the SBA size standards set forth in the in their regulations, that they use gross revenue a gross revenue standard when determining whether a women or minority-owned business can participate in these SBA programs. And since it's gross, are you concerned that using that current standard and not updating it based on increased costs of goods, increased cost of doing business, that certain businesses like yours or others might get knocked out of the program prematurely just because of the way inflation is?
I think that I don't know exactly what the SBA standards are. I certainly am very familiar with like the state of Illinois and city of Chicago, state of Indiana standards. I would think that they run pretty similar, but I think one of the really big problems of those programs is that you graduate too quickly. The reality is there's still a lack of MB, WB businesses out there to do construction work. And, all the states are putting in higher and higher percentages that work needs to be subcontracted. And there's just not enough skilled people out there. I would much prefer to see some more criteria put in as far as the number of minorities or women in the workforce working on a particular job. To me, would raise it better than selecting one specific customer or owner of a company. Would be more effective. And also what we've seen over and over again is you get a very qualified minority contractor and then everybody floods to them because they do a good job. They get too big, they graduate out of the program. So I think
they hit a certain revenue standard and they just get graduated out.
Yep.
And then you're all stuck in the same position as you just were.
And I know there's been discussion in the state of Illinois of even taking those standards completely off, where that is right now, I don't know, but definitely those for construction jobs, I think, a lot of times it's around $30 million is pretty darn small. I mean, it costs a lot to do any kind of road construction or trucking or whatever it is. That's pretty small.
No, absolutely. I know. And same thing in my state in New York. It's not many businesses. A lot of projects cost that much. Mr. Arnold, I'm not sure. Have you heard any similar from anything similar in Colorado with some of your contractors? I know you probably work very closely with them since you have the program that you currently run.
Thank you, Representative. My experience really has been more that the city and county of Denver has similar program requirements, and there's a lot of work going on at Denver International Airport. It is a concern because it's based off gross revenue. The cost of materials has gone up just significantly, and I think labor costs will follow suit as we try to backfill the labor needs. And so I think it's worth taking a hard look at it. It made sense on the surface. Your gross revenue should be a reflection of what type of profit margin that you make at the end of the project. But with the increase on the goods, and if you look at a chiller or whatever piece of equipment that you're buying, materials, because they've increased so much, and we still want to serve our customers, I think the contractors are sharpening up the pencils, and so that might mean that those profit margins are a little bit thinner than they were in the past, just to make sure that the project goes forward, everything stays on budget. And so it's worth an examination and making sure that we're not graduating those women and minority-owned contractors too quickly, because they need that support to really flourish long-term.
You actually, you touched a point that I was going to get to you next. Can you talk about how much materials have gone up and what that is doing to the contractors that you work with?
So right now, we haven't seen an effect on as far as projects being delayed or canceled, but the material costs have increased significantly. I attended strategic planning sessions with our contractors actually this week, Monday and Tuesday, and that was a large topic of discussion and whether or not they were seeing actual projects delayed or canceled. Things are long lead items right now, and we've just seen huge increases on just the raw materials that it takes to build these kinds of projects out. I had a contractor tell me that they're looking at 60 weeks lead on some of the equipment that they need for projects. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, coming up here in the near future.
I appreciate the answer. I'm out of time, so I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.